Welcome to our podcast. I'm your host, Peter Manos, Director of Research at ARC Advisory Group. And I have with me a person who's well known by folks at many refineries, petrochemical plants, and pipeline operators. And I guess I should say well known and also highly respected, Krishna Uppuluri, VP and GM of Impact2. Thanks for joining us, Krishna.
Thanks, Peter. Pleasure to join you.
So, Krishna, I've seen how you and your team focus on your end users from a boots-on-the-ground workforce perspective beyond Molex driving improvements based on your solution's technical benefits. Why do you have this end-user focus?
Yeah, so if you look at the legacy industrial Internet of Things solutions, they focused too much on technology, and they were quite complex for adoption by boots on the ground. Hence, a lot of the industrial sites, they achieved spotty adoption and some isolated efficiency. For a ground-up transformation and continuous improvement, the sites need active adoption by boots on the ground.
Interesting.
Such adoption not only increases daily efficiencies, but it addresses the larger issues related to aging workforce with consistent data-enabled decisions. That's why we focus on boots on the ground adoption and enablement.
So for emissions monitoring and leak detection solution, among your other solutions at Molex, looking at the stewardship aspect and the bottom line benefits, but also obviously from a trend point of view, artificial intelligence of things is also in play, what we call AIoT, as well as EHS or ESG related domains, environmental health and safety for the workforce and the work processes. So how do you harmonize the seeming conflicts between stewardship and bottom line versus EHS, ESG, and all that other areas of concern out there?
Well, all of these initiatives fall into a spectrum, ranging from short-term tactical initiatives to long-term strategic initiatives. They're not necessarily conflicting. However, they can lead to delays and conflicts if they're all force-fitted into one eclectic mix. So I think it's important for the sites and the enterprises to prioritize these into incremental initiatives rather than one whole eclectic mix of things.
That makes sense. And what I've been seeing in looking at your end users is that you're giving them an ability to detect problems a lot earlier, and that seems to be a big aspect of it. Can you speak to how plant managers view Impact2?
Yeah, plant managers are concerned about site-wide safety, compliance, risks, and unplanned downtimes. Their initial interest in early detection is generally driven by a specific, reactive, urgent requirement. However, once they see the benefits of early detection, they invest in the broader requirements to proactively transform their operations.
Interesting. So I could see that obviously, detecting a leak earlier or an emissions monitoring issue earlier, but you also have the Impact2 solutions around corrosion monitoring. So what are the concerns in relation to that in terms of process or reliability or mechanical integrity engineers? These very specific roles of a process engineer or engineers in those other focus areas.
Yeah, corrosion monitoring is deep-rooted in schedule-based approach and inspector expertise. So if you look at the legacy sensor monitoring solutions, they were all limited by inconsistent, low-confidence results.
So in other words, like the workers, there was a manual process, like a worker would go and temporarily place an ultrasonic corrosion monitoring sensor on a pipe in a certain location, get the data, and then go back to the control room or wherever they work. It wasn't like a consistent set of data, in other words?
Yeah, they used those sensors' data for directional insights, but still relied heavily on their own assessment. But with our high-fidelity sensors and AI/ML insights, inspectors are now relying on our solution for trusted insights.
So it's better data, and it's a lot more data too, for the corrosion monitoring. And I guess along similar lines, what about these various end users, emissions monitoring and leak detection? What are their key areas of concern, their key care abouts?
Emissions monitoring can lead to inside-out issues from fugitive emissions, compliance, and safety of personnel and communities. So it's a different beast compared to corrosion monitoring. So in emissions monitoring, early detection gives the various stakeholders valuable time to contain the emissions and systemize quick fixes. So sites usually start with known areas of concern, such as docks, fence line, remote terminals, and then expand to sensitive process units.
Do you ever see end users sort of stuck or attached to their old ways of doing things where they think that the current systems they have in place, even though they're less sophisticated when it comes to leak detection and emissions monitoring, that those systems are sufficient, that they don't need to put in something more sophisticated?
The need to adopt a new paradigm is always triggered by unexpected anomalies or difficulty in staffing or change in regulations. So industrial sites, which are often in remote areas, and with the manual emissions monitoring being a tedious effort, the new paradigm delivers trusted insights, it's easy to adopt, and the end users become open to changing from their existing.
So that's excellent. And does that go for both pipelines and for fence line monitoring, as well as the process units and other equipment typically being monitored in facilities?
Absolutely. Usually, it's a process that starts with the site's immediate need, and then it expands to other adjacent use cases to achieve a more holistic transformation.
Excellent. So it's like there's a thin end of the wedge in terms of they're getting value, and then it expands. That's excellent. So before we wrap up, Krishna, could you highlight the key takeaways for plant managers and the broader industry?
Yeah. As I said at the beginning of the session, our focus on boots on the ground adoption and operational efficiencies drives our solutions. First, of course, the early detection with trusted insights. Second, consumerized apps for easy adoption. Third, solution as a service business model that helps the sites avoid the burden of the solution components and keeps their focus on their operational anomalies. So our solutions focus on boots on the ground leads to systemized operational efficiencies. It addresses the issues related to aging workforce with consistent data-enabled decisions. Impactful solutions, that's how we lead to a more transformative holistic effect on industrial operation.
Well, it certainly sounds like Impact 2 is well named because of the impact that it has. And I want to thank you, Krishna, for these valuable insights. It's pretty clear that embracing technological advancements like AIoT is crucial for achieving operational excellence and sustainability. So as we conclude this episode, I think it's important to recognize that the path forward involves a lot more collaboration and innovation than in the past for folks to meet challenges that they face. And to all listeners, we want to thank you for joining us today, and we hope this discussion's given you some practical insights and inspiration to drive positive change in your operations. And until next time, stay informed and stay engaged. And again, thank you, Krishna, for your time and expertise.
Thank you, Peter.
Excellent.